which is an organization. It's like an online destination for women, for career, for their life struggles, everything. So it's run by women, for women, of women. So we're partnering with Shiros, and that's why we have the honor of having this prolific speaker with us, Aparna Sharma, today. So please play the video.
Video.
Oops. Technology not our best friend. Yeah. Volume.
Shiros, the government-only platform, a safe and trusted place. What happens anywhere else on internet? What happens on Shiros? You don't need to play safe at Shiros. This is your safe place. A community of 2 million women who help, love, advise, and learn from each other. At Shiros, you can be anyone you ever wanted to be. Come, explore yourself.
So with that, I'm going to sort of open today's session with a question for all of you. Do we still need a Women's Day?
Good question.
Right?
And I kind of struggled with this, and I've been struggling with this for some time. And I think the answer is yes, actually we do.
Celebrate ourselves.
Yeah, we do to celebrate ourselves, and we actually need it because a recent report by World Economic Forum says it'll take 217 years to achieve gender parity. Well, that's a lot of years. Take a deep breath, let that digest, and then let's move on. Right? So, Women's Day, we started celebrating Women's Day in 1910. Okay, and the original aim was to achieve gender parity. And then right now we're talking about another 217 more years to get there. So that's something which all of us, of course, need to collectively work on. So now something, I'm just going to read out some statistics which I think the room will appreciate generally. So a recent BCG survey said that women's representation in Indian firms stands at around 27%. And that's 33% for MNCs. And our Nielsen percentage here is 22%. And 42% for commercial, which is, we can kind of take comfort that 42% is a good number. 22%, the challenges, I think, Prashul rightly alluded to, is because of challenges in finding women in operations, etc. Women account only for 17% of senior management positions in India, compared to 26% in emerging Asia Pacific countries. Again, not a number that we can be hugely proud of, a number which all of us need to collectively work on. When I say all, I genuinely, it's not just for women, it's actually men and women, which is why I kind of insisted that we will have male participation in the room as well. We all know, I think it's commonly said that everyone knows that having women on boards, leads to, profitable companies, better return on investments. And this study has been substantiated by the likes of Credit Suisse, McKinsey, and everyone. And McKinsey's recent research even shows that gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to outperform their peers. Despite all of that, despite all the strides many women have made in many, many fields, 75% of all S&P 500 executive and senior level officials are men. Okay, so again, let that sink in. 75% is a big number for global S&P companies, and most of them the positions are held by men. With that, I come to the theme for International Women's Day.
I'll just give one more statistic.
Sure.
Okay, since we're talking about entrepreneurship and startup culture, I was watching, I think CNBC last evening. 2% of all startup funding goes to women. Just 2%.
Just 2%. That's.
And I'll
Yeah.
also add one more statistic. I've been to another Women's Day kind of forum, something about empowerment of women, which Mahibal and some of the HR girls said that would be good. And this is, it's interesting that commercial has 42% women. It's a statistic again done, it was a study conducted between two reputed firms, Sodexo and I think Accenture, if I'm not mistaken. It's a statistically proven fact that when you have a mix of men and women, that means you have maybe almost like a 60-40. There's the sweet spot of 40% to 60% women representation. That's when your business success is also at its peak. Mind you, it's not that we need to have more women in the mix. You have more women, you have more men, it doesn't work. There's a sweet spot of between 40 to 60%, which actually gives you the best possible business success, and that's a proven fact. So yeah, that's.
Yeah. So with that, I come to the theme for International Women's Day 2018, which is Press for Progress, which all of you may know is a continuation of movements that we have seen recently, like the Me Too campaign, Times of Movement, etc. And the aim of the theme is to encourage people to continue the movement for gender equality. Hence, I mean, my submission is that this cannot be sort of constrained within a day. This needs to be a daily conversation, and we should not just celebrate and forget this in a day, right? This change will not take place on its own. Like I earlier said, we need men and women in the room to believe in it and support it in their day-to-day lives and in the workplace. With that, I come to Shiro's. I mentioned about Shiro's yesterday as well. We're very, very fortunate to collaborate with Shiro's. We are part of one of the 40 organizations who is sort of doing this for the first time at Shiro's. It's called Shiro's Ours. Some of the other organizations who are participating are like the likes of PepsiCo, Accor Hotels, Swiggy, ITC, if I'm not mistaken, Tata Communications, Snapdeal, Jet Airways, etc. So we're very fortunate that we sort of collaborated with Shiro's, and they came up with this pool of speakers, and we're fortunate to have Aparna Sharma in Mumbai, and we have Shweta Verma, who's the Chief of Staff, Global Chief of Staff for Diversity and Inclusion from PwC. So very fortunate to have such leading women leaders to come and talk to us. Right, so with Shiro's main theme being taking charge, we thought it was a good, like I said, it's great to have a Shiro with us, Aparna Sharma. A bit of background about Aparna. Aparna is a very senior leader. She has more than 20 years of experience working in the HR domain. She's been associated with companies like Monsanto, Novartis, Deutsche Bank, UCB. Her recent accomplishments include writing a book, Reality Bites. She's actually carried a copy. Please feel free to sort of flip through the pages, and if you like it, please, she's got some copies which you can sort of buy from her as well. She's got a lot of accomplishments and awards to boot. Some of the awards she's been felicitated with is Young Women Achiever Award in March 2018, MTC Outstanding Corporate Award for Excellence in Human Resources during the 6th Annual Global Convention, Women Achievers Award by World HRD Congress and Institute of Public Enterprise in 2013, HR Super Achiever Award by Star News at the World HRD Congress, and she's also an active member of Shiro's. We hope to hear from her about her journey, what it takes to excel, and how can women shape their own destiny. Without much ado, let me take this opportunity and warmly welcome Aparna today. Let's together seize the day and try to come.
Thank you, Sandhya, for that very detailed introduction. I was just saying time up. I didn't want to actually reduce any amount of time in terms of the interaction. I must take a bow. Thank you so much for having me here. And as I've been instructed that I have restricted movement, I can only go left and right and only up to this, standee here, because we have a lot of locations who are also hooked on to this for this session. So I shall, abide by all the instructions. So as much as I would like to be amongst you, you just see that the spirit is there. And of course, I'm physically here, but with everybody else, who's actually listening and watching. Really proud and feel privileged to be associated with Shiro's, and being a Shiro's champion. And they said, would you like to go and share your roller coaster journey with a lot of men and women. So the minute they said, they didn't say women only, they said men and women, I was very excited. I said, I would actually like more and more men also to be a part of this journey. And I'll talk about why is it that I say so. We will have Q&A at the end of the session. So in case you feel the need to stop me, ask me something, just hold your horses for a little bit. There's just so much that I want to talk about, and I shall make sure that it's, in the allotted time, right? So I'm going to break this in probably 3 parts. I'll talk about childhood. I'll talk about, the starting of one's career. And then I'll talk about, my movement in the sort of career ladder. Okay. These days, I like to use the word career lattice rather than ladder. But nonetheless, being part of the ladder, it might sort of make sense to you as well. But firstly, Sandhya asked a question, do we need a Women's Day? So as I was getting ready to come, for the session this morning, so my husband looked at me and he said, so you going somewhere? We don't discuss work, of course. So I said, yeah, I'm going to actually, this organization to talk about. So he said, so I said, but you didn't wish me Happy Women's Day. He says, what's the big deal? Every day is your day. So I'm very fortunate that he thinks that I can wear the pants when I want to. Every day is my day. And he really shivers, when I sort of, take charge in that manner, right? So, of course, I was very pleased with that when I left home. But going into flashback, and I said I'll talk about it in 3 parts. The first part is childhood, all right? And I must say, and frankly, it takes a lot of courage to share with you what I'm going to share with you and promise that everything that I say stays with you, okay? Do I have that promise from you? Okay. So how many of you know where is Ujjain? So it's probably 40% of the room. Okay, the statistics have improved from the time. All right, so I was actually born in Ujjain, many, many years ago. Okay, so I won't let out here. So being the youngest, my dad being the youngest in the family, I'm the youngest of the youngest. Okay, and those days you had like lots of kids. So my father had lots of siblings. So youngest of the youngest. And being the second child. So I have an older sister. So there was a lot of jubilation when, of course, my sister was born because she was the firstborn. But grandmom wanted a boy when it was my turn, right? So while my mother had, the best of Ashirvad when my sister was born, she was very annoyed, saying, oh, well. So it was discrimination, okay, with mom, of course, and surely with me, because, she said, well, I'm not so sure. We needed her, we wanted her, it would have been better if we had a boy. I'm not sure she's going to be worth too much. Okay, she's not with us anymore, but I'm sure wherever she is, she's very happy about whatever worth I've been able to create over the years. Right, so I take that as a blessing in disguise. So it started off with discrimination. Okay, and those parts of the country, the northern part of the country, actually, is very different in terms of how girl child is sort of viewed even today. Okay, 217 years. We're talking about the entire world, all right, but those parts of the country still long way to go. So growing up, again, cousins, etc., would treat you very differently because they ladki ko nahi khilayenge. We don't play with the girls, okay, kind of a thing, okay, that kind of an attitude, okay. So one has seen discrimination, and like I said, I'm very fortunate that in the family that I'm part of now appreciates and understands, the fact that every day is my day, right? So moving on from there, education, again, not very easy. A lot of struggle in terms of education. Again, I go back to that part of the country because it was like, you do basic education and then off you go, we get you married. Okay. It's the norm. Okay. So anybody who breaks the norm is a rebel. And I was a labeled rebel. Okay. So there was, as one was growing up, not easy. I ducked a lot of such pressure. I dealt with it in some ways. I tried the ones I couldn't deal with, given my age. I sort of ducked, of course, with my mom's help and my father's help, etc. But the major thing was, I needed to be financially independent very early on in life to make sure that the sword dangling on my head, which was marriage, saying at a particular age, everybody, that's the norm, that's what you do. Okay, I had to ward that off. So 1994 is when I first came to Mumbai. And it's not that I stayed in Madhya Pradesh all along. I probably studied in about 8 states in the country. So I speak about 7 Indian languages, regional, because of my father's transferable job. And importantly, coming to TISS, my second brush with discrimination. Okay, so when I ask this question, how many of you know where is Ujjain? 40% of this room knows Ujjain and where it is. Those days, I had a batch of 30 students in my class, and everybody sort of despised me for the fact that we don't even know which part of the country that is in. Okay, so small town girl, okay, coming to Mumbai for the first time, and well, you don't know the ways of a metro city. Okay, you don't know how to live, how to behave, what the city is going to offer you, and frankly, it was a blank canvas. One didn't really know. So then on, I think, one thing that has been important for me is about taking charge. Every situation that life has thrown at you, okay, not knowing what is the best solution, but whatever one has done, I think it's worked well, okay, by the grace of God. And I haven't got it right always. Okay, I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not perfect, but worked very hard at it. All right. So I decided that 2 years. At the end of 2 years, the entire class knew where Ujjain was in the map. Okay, the results spoke for itself. All right, the results were enough to make the point without actually out or whatever, and said, okay, so point made, we move on. Now that was not it. So having crossed that barrier, and being an A student, the next challenge or barrier was about the first job. So first day, dream company, you only get one opportunity to apply. All right, that's the dream company that you talk about. So I did apply. I was there for an interview, and it was an all-male panel. Okay, and I was interviewed by 3 very senior men, without any offense meant to the men in this room or anywhere else, with gray hair or no hair. Okay, so that was the composition of the panel, and I was interviewed for 3 hours. So it was a stress interview, technical and all of that. At the end of it, at the end of the day, when they had to announce the results, okay, and this is important because it talks about, what happened. They called me and they said, it's very nice meeting you, Aparna. Okay, for a minute, you are Aparna. However, we cannot offer you the job. Okay, we have a policy that we don't hire women on the shop floor. Okay, so there it was, the career for which I had really overcome all these odds actually collapsed like a pack of cards even before it started. And then I could only see that sword dangling on my head. Okay, I knew what everybody in the family was going to say. Okay, and I couldn't, I frankly went blank. Okay, now, what is the point and what is the message? So they said, without batting an eyelid, it was very easy for them to say what they had to say. In my response to them, I would have tried to evince actually a response from you, but in the interest of time, I shall tell you what happened. I very patiently, I was actually paddling like a duck underwater, if you know what I mean. But I was very calm and composed on the outside. I wasn't smiling. I was not amused at all. Okay, so I said, I hear what you say, sir, but I'm not sure I understand. Okay, this batch of students has 22 girls and 8 boys in class out of a batch of 30. You have 3 positions to hire, right? There were 6 girls who applied and 2 boys. So I'm not sure why we went through the interview process if you were not to hire anybody as part of your policy. And I think that question hit them like a ton of bricks. They went blank for a while. When you're not prepared, and you're groping for answers. So, one of them said, the senior most person said, when you look for words and you're not sure, and they said, well, we were just trying to check the quality of students that TISS is bringing in these days. Okay, I wasn't amused again. Okay, so they said thank you, and they knew I wasn't convinced, and not that they were trying to convince me, but they had to close the conversation. Okay, so they left for the day, and the minute I got out of the room and this news went that they're not hiring anybody, all my batchmates said, "Dekha, see, small town girl. Okay, all right. You should have applied to the cities of the world and this one." And there were a lot of companies on campus. So you have this kira of working on the shop floor, rolling up your sleeves, whatever. Okay, so results were one thing, but this is what happened. All right, and my head of the department was hopping mad at me. Okay, he said, "How dare you ask them a question?" Okay, so speaking up was not allowed as a norm. Okay, and said, they will not come to campus from next year. You have actually, because of this, ruined opportunities for people who are going to come henceforth, okay, to this. So they are not going to come. How could you ask them a question? Why did you ask them a question? Okay, just so, the boss is always right. The one who employs you is always right. And you just, yes, sir, right? That's what one is supposed to do. But that's, again, breaking the norm, doing something different, speaking up for oneself and saying, I want to know. Okay, it was not time pass. I mean, why? I didn't have an answer, but I think, And everybody was, there was so much noise. I frankly went blank. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. So how does one take risks, look at challenges as opportunities? Okay. I think had I kept quiet that day, okay, it would have been a different history in my life and my career for sure. Okay. And in the lives of a lot of other girls and boys and women and people, that I interact with today, because I think I would have no message to give. I did not stand up for myself. All right. The point was, it was a risk. I wanted to know, and there was no harm in, if they didn't have an answer, fine. They came back to campus the next day at 11 a.m. and they called for me. And everybody was like, I don't know, they're going to say, we freeze the placement money, you've actually finished, whatever. So I went. I could see that I think they had not slept the previous night. Okay. They were rattled, to say the least. Okay. They had not expected a question from a student and from a girl student. Okay. And this I'm talking 20 plus years ago. Okay. So it's been an era. Okay. We're in the 21st century, right? So it was difficult for them. And they said, well, we thought about it. And I think, we are sure that we will want to make you an offer. And they smiled. You would be actually the first lady on the shop floor for this organization. Okay, so that was actually the making of history for that organization. But is a very dangerous word. You would all agree with me. Do you agree with me? Yes. But you are responsible for your safety and security. Okay. There are 3,500 male workers and officers in this factory who have not worked with a woman on the shop floor. Okay. So, without knowing what that safety and security meant, I said, sure. Thank you very much. And it was all good. We were all good. Okay. So first job was understudy to the plant IR manager. I heard there are some interns here, right? I met some of you here in the audience, right? I was a management trainee on the shop floor, first lady. Most people didn't know how to interact with me, what to say to me, what to expect of me. It was okay. So the first job, okay. So I think the message here is speak up. It's important for you to stand up for what you believe in. Okay. Some parts of what I might say may not be relevant to your business. Okay. And this is not a business conversation. This is about, how you take charge in whatever situation you are in your life. Okay. Unfortunately, there is no textbook which gives the guide. Okay, there are no textbook solutions to what you need to do in life. Okay, I've tried writing a book with respect to HR, but it's it's 20 years of experience that has been distilled in there, right? Again, from experience. So my first job, again, I signed up for it, right? I signed up for it. So I said, so, who's a darban? Like if I were to stand here, no, I can't move. So if I were to stand here and open the door for everyone who comes in, okay, in a restaurant, we all go to a restaurant. So the darban is usually standing outside or sitting outside, has a chair outside. I was elevated. I had a chair inside by the door. If this is a management meeting room, and there are 10 management and union representatives, okay, IR stands for industrial relations. If there were 10 of them sitting here, and we had 4 unions in that factory, and late Dr. Datta Samant, who was known as a very militant leader, was also one of them. So if this was there, and it would be an all men thing, okay? So this was my chair, okay? This is the door. And what was the job, okay? Chai lana, coffee lana, pani lana. And so anybody who ever wanted, because meetings would go on for 8 hours, 10 hours, uninterrupted, people were not allowed to come in, etc. So I was a confidential darban, you see. And I became an ace at Xeroxing and faxing, because every document was confidential. So there was a Xerox and fax machine inside, and any number, if I had to fax something or whatever, I was only allowed. Nobody else was allowed. So I mastered that art. Even today, I can repair a Xerox machine better than an engineer, because I have practice. See, technology has changed. Okay, I haven't tried my hands at the recent ones, but yes, the earlier ones. By the end of the day, when I came back home, my mother thought I went for a dangal. Everybody knows dangal, right? We watched the movie. Because I had black stuff all over my hands and, face, and as much as I tried to rub, because I was changing toner so many times in the machine, right? Because no engineer was also allowed. So I, mastered the art. The point I'm trying to make here is, it's not about the act. What I learned sitting on that chair or doing this kind of service was the art of negotiation, which no book has taught me, or no act has taught me, as to how to negotiate in such situations, okay, or to arrive at settlements. And what goes behind it? How do you actually look at conflict management? So I looked at the positive side of it, of course, and what I learned from what people were saying all along, I picked that. All right. And that has really served me in good stead for the next 20 years of my career, in terms of where I've had to, sign so many of these settlements. Okay. So that's practical knowledge, absolutely, from those people. Right. So I looked at the positive side of it. Of course, later on, my father thought that, next time whenever a guy came to see me, I would be so good at service, tea, coffee, that was like a added bonus. Yeah. So the point is, there is no job which is chota or bada. No job which is big or small. Let's look whatever, and let's not go by the job description. Okay, job description is whatever it is, but the more you expand yourself, the more you want to actually look at or take, the more the learning is going to be. Job descriptions could be very restrictive. Of course, that's the basic, all right? But nobody stops you from taking on more, putting your hand up for something and saying, hey, I want to do this. Okay, there's only learning that one can get, and it's only value addition to you as a professional. This comes, this is the second part in terms of looking at profession. So there's no job which is, big or small, inferior or superior. Let's just take on as much as we can, because there is learning. And secondly, how to look at the positive side of everything. Okay. If you think you're doomed, you really are. If you think you're not, right? So it's up to us in terms of how you want to flip it. So very happy, learned a lot of things, and I have so much gratitude. The other thing is about all of us here are so blessed. We have to, and I'm going to keep saying this again and again, we have to count our blessings. You work for such a wonderful organization. I was looking at the statistics, the global statistics, statistics in India, the kind of, policies or programs that you have. All right. Of course, we can do better. Okay. But let's pause and appreciate what we actually have. We are blessed. I feel very blessed. I have a lot of gratitude towards everybody who kept throwing a spanner in the wheel to make it very difficult, yet there was a learning in everything. So nobody did it out of bad will or whatever, okay? But I think just the amount of learning that one got out of, the entire experience, right? Moving on, okay? Again, I don't name organizations. So it's important to put your hand up. So, so Philippines is supposed to be a hardship posting. So they don't like Indians, and if you're a woman, and if you're an expat, you're doomed. Okay, and they think that Philippines became a third world country because of Mahatma Gandhi. So that's why they don't like Indians. So when there was this, was going to the US for a developmental assignment, but I was asked, or people in the room were asked, there was a team meeting going on, and people were asked, we have a situation, who can help us? Who'd like to do? So nobody knew what it was, all right? But it's okay to jump in even if you don't know. Sometimes something will come out of it. Okay, they're not going to push you in the well, right? So for some reason, there were men and women in the room. Nobody put their hand up. For some reason, everybody looked at me. Okay, it was not the first time. Okay, so it is not that I have this Khatro ke Khiladi written here or Jhansi ki Rani or whatever. Okay, but everybody looked at me, and anyways, I was the one who was going to the US. So Philippines is supposed to be stopover. Okay, so Manila is supposed to be stopover. So went for a short-term assignment for 3 months, and I had the time of my life. Okay, in every possible way. I was living on the edge, not knowing if I will be alive tomorrow. When I say I had the time of my life, because that was the kind of assignment. I shall not go into gory details, not from the point of view of sensationalizing it, all right? The point is, it was a difficult assignment. There was a huge issue with respect to integrity of an HR head, okay? Because of which the entire business and the organization was at stake. So 3 months where one had to go and investigate and figure out whether we can actually run business in that country or not. Philippines is 5,500 islands when it is high tide. So when it is low tide, you can imagine the number of islands, right? So very interesting assignment. Instead of 3 months, I ended up staying there for 3 years because I thought that was a real job. Okay, without knowing what the outline to begin with, of course, once one got into. So while in Rome, do as Romans do. So I became Filipino. I had blonde hair. I used to look like Filipino. I spoke the language in 3 months. I still do. I have a second home in the sense I have all my colleagues, friends that I worked with, are great family for me even today. Amazing time and a real job. Okay, whether we would actually be able to run business, resurrect business or not. And what you study in textbooks about a team-based management, we did not have a head, or we do not have a MD, or a country director. 4 people in the country, and this is about how you work with different cultures. A person, Indian HR head, Filipino sales head, someone from Pakistan who was the marketing head, and an Australian who was the CFO. Okay, and he couldn't help but come into a meeting room bowling because Australians, he was just so fond of that, and Philippines don't understand cricket, right? They're ignorant. So the task was actually to get everyone together to figure out how to. So interesting assignment. The point is, family could not visit for the time that I was there, to the extent that my father thought I had a Filipino boyfriend, because of which he was not allowed. Okay, I was trying to hide something because I had already warded off the sword for many years, right? So he thought she must, I was really busy. Yeah, I was busy. I was busy with work, but there was a lot of personal risk and safety issue if one had brought them there, because one was trained on a lot of defense, etc. because situations warranted, things like that. So very exciting time, loads of learning again from there. And I would say the biggest learning was anything that you want to do or anything that you set your mind to or you're asked to do, even if you don't desire, but if you're asked to, do it with all the passion. Okay, when you want to do something, you bring out the passion. Even if you're asked to do something, make sure there's passion. Courage, okay, whether it's managerial courage or personal courage. Courage is definitely needed to be able to take risks. And ability. Make sure we constantly keep developing our knowledge and our ability. So competence is the bedrock. Gender cannot be an alibi for incompetence. Cannot be under any circumstances, and no organization will tolerate that. So let's continue to actually grow and develop whatever skills, hone whatever skills that we need to be able to contribute our best and keep adding value to ourselves as a professional. Okay, I think very, very important in terms of a lesson and a learning. Of course, I did, win one of the large, most prestigious awards in the country, which is also called the Passion, Courage, and Ability Award for that role. That's besides the point. I'll shift gears and I'll talk about, very happy to see a lot of men, and I'm sure a lot more are listening. I was telling Sandhya that I had a lot of employees from across locations actually reach out on LinkedIn from various other locations, and all men. So about this session, all right. So as one was growing, so I talked about some of the experiences as one was growing. Okay, it was not a bed of roses. So action, take 2 or take 3, whatever. Okay, so I move to the next phase. So here I am in a boardroom, in a management meeting as a head of HR, presenting diversity statistics. Okay, so I've moved along that ladder. Okay, the ladder, sometimes the lattice, sometimes the ladder, whatever. So and this, I think, is important. When I was presenting, so it was of course a multinational organization, and except me, everybody in the executive team was a male, right? Again, no offense meant. I'm just telling you just the way it is, all right? Again, we have to count our blessings, okay? Other industries, other sectors operate very differently, all right? The mandate for me was actually to ensure that we have more diversity. We have, and diversity is not about statistics. Okay, I'll come to that. It's not about statistics. It's not about numbers. Okay, it's a business imperative about doing the right thing. Okay, not to have gender or whatever. Okay, she talked about what is the value that it brings. Okay, whether it's a board or otherwise. So the statistics that I was presenting were dismal. Absolutely, and I was hired as the HR head to bring in more women in an organization which did not have enough washrooms for women, enough as in negligible, okay, or in the plants or in the factories, etc. So we first have to fix the basics to be able to talk about everything which is more ephemeral in that sense. So there, as I was presenting, and here I'm talking about bias. Again, you are so blessed. There has to be so much gratitude for the organization that you're part of. Okay. When you're grateful, you will receive even much better. Okay. This is a rule that I have always observed. So I'm presenting statistics and talking about the fact that, it looks like this, and we were not meeting the global targets. Of course, we were far away from the Indian targets as well. So a very senior gentleman stood up in the meeting, and Okay, so Hindi is okay, right? Hindi is okay.
Yes, of course.
So anyway, I shall translate it later. Okay, because this conversation happened in Hindi. So we had different nationalities. We had French, German, American, Belgian, Indians in that room. So 5 different nationalities out of 10 people, and only lady. So stood up and said, "Ho gaya aapka?" Okay, so I'm presenting, and that's the D&I strategy that one is talking about. There's no I, there's only D. Okay, so ho gaya aapka? ये सब तो ठीक है जो आपने बोला, महिलाएं अगर पुरुषों से 2 कदम पीछे चलें, आपको वही शोभा देता है. And I'm not talking about any other century. I'm talking about, and we're talking about gender equality, gender parity. 2 कदम पीछे चले तो ही अच्छा लगता है. यहां तक आ गई, आगे कहां जाना है वो हम डिसाइड करेंगे. I think what you need to do is promote 2 women from this category to this category, okay, and this category to this category, and we're good. इतना हिंदी में बोला, बाकी statistics English में बोला, right? If we do this to this, and we're done, okay? So for this year's target, we're okay. So, and before that, I was making a point that actually the fact is that even the participation in a survey, diversity survey that we had done to see what can we do better, how is it that we can improve, etc., participation had dropped by 50% from the previous year. So I was saying that there's something that, you know, the business needs to own up, leaders have to role model, have to walk the talk, all of that was being said. Okay, I had just made that point and then I was presenting the statistics. So this is what I got. Okay, so I should have been peddling like a duck inside, right? So I heard him very patiently, and whatever be the situation, I think people have to be respected. They have points of view. There's nothing personal. You're professionals. We're all professionals here, right? We have rights to our points of view, right or wrong. Okay, we shall decide. Okay, now this, you can take it as a very personal thing and say, you know, how could somebody say this? I'm head of HR, whatever. How could somebody make me do that Darban job as, you know, TISS, whatever? Okay, so you just brush this off. Okay, I mean, what's the big deal? Okay, whatever. So I looked at him and he thought that I shall, you know, of course, say a lot of things and get angry and, you know, everything that is expected. So it's very calm and quiet. And I smiled and I said, "Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate what you said. But for the benefit of all those in the room who did not understand what was just said," okay, so everything that was said, I translated. Because I told you nationality is in the room. Okay. So I translated everything and said, he had not expected it. Frankly, I also didn't know that I would do that. Another skill, very important, man or woman, doesn't matter, is thinking on your feet at all points in time. Never goes out of fashion. Okay. So I translated, and you could see faces drop, jaws drop, and okay. And that was about it. That was about it. So nobody stood up and said, you know, how could you, like my HOD said, how could you, whatever. No. Okay, so we're all good. Okay, said whatever. And I also took it in jest. So then I said, well, this was said, and I think there needs to be some deliberation here in this room about where we are going, because it's not about numbers. Okay, we probably the leadership needs to do certain things, okay, in certain manners, etc., etc. I said a lot of things. So I said, I shall leave you alone to discuss and deliberate on this. And I think when you think you're ready, please call me. So, okay, I didn't make a fuss, nothing. Okay, I said what I had to say and I stepped out of the room. Okay, now a lot of people said apology, this, that, it's not a political thing. I said professionals. Okay, second important thing is be a professional first, a woman later. So any cobwebs that we have in our heads about gender, okay, we just born differently, happen to be, but we cannot, we have an equal responsibility for creating a level playing field. We cannot say somebody else, it takes two to tango. Okay, so we cannot say that, only that person. Okay, we have to communicate what is the problem, and everybody is willing to help and listen. Okay, so clearly left them alone, stepped out. I'm not sure what happened in the room. That's not important. Okay, I shall not belabor too much on the story. The point was made. Okay, without disrespecting anybody, being professional at all points in time. And of course, we did take the next step and we moved ahead. Okay, so when you're a professional man or woman, there is nothing like an ego. Okay, everybody's trying to do their jobs. Okay, so today when we meet very, very warmly and because there's nothing personal about what he said. Okay, so that's about being professional. If you hold a grudge and say, no, I think you make it very personal, you complicate things. Relationships, have to be a little flexible in that sense, right? And this is important because as you grow in your corporate journey, okay, there will be many circumstances, many situations, and you have to decide. You're the best judge of how you want to handle it. There is again no textbook solution, to this kind of an issue or a problem. Moving on from there, okay, plenty of such experiences that one can talk about in terms of diversity, inclusion, and all. A couple of years ago, many years ago, wrote an article about don't make men out of women. Let's not make men out of women. That's the title of the article. Okay. Because in the corporate world, we are trying to fit in, okay, and saying, let's look at what are the characteristics to be successful. You can be successful just the way you are. You don't have to be somebody else. And the same goes for men. Okay. Like I'm saying, we're professionals. Okay. Men and women just happen to be. Right. So let's not make men out of women. The second one, very important, and I see there's a very young group here. Do you need a godfather at the workplace? Okay, that's the second article. And I'm very kicked about that article. Because there's a lot of debate about whether you need a godfather, you don't need a godfather. Okay. I've had great mentors, men and women. Okay, in my career. Again, I've given you circumstances. So one is what you learn from people. Second is your own approach and attitude towards any situation in life. Okay, how do you turn that to your advantage? So to my mind, I don't think that you need a godfather. Okay, I don't think godfather, godmother, whatever. I was reading this very interesting article, and in fact, this is dated. This is November 2016. Finding the fairy godfather. So there is Obama and there is Hillary. Okay, so this is very at the peak during those days. Okay, and it says fairy godfather. Very interesting article. You can take a look later. Talks about the importance of career sponsors. Okay, let's not call them godfather. Okay. Career sponsors. Okay. And career sponsors, I think it's not the lingo or the semantics. I think what is important is what is the role that they play in your life. Each one of you can actually aspire to be a career sponsor at a later stage in your career, but actually get hooked on to a career sponsor uh, who actually work as anchors in any organization. You may have already them, but a lot of them, if you don't have, look for those anchors. Okay, so when you have career sponsors, they're the ones who help you with visibility. One is, how do you make your own self visible? Okay, put your hand up. That's under your control. But at the same time, someone senior enough who is genuinely interested in your development, willing to spend time. Okay, look for such people. Oftentimes you don't have to have, of course, within the organization, you can also have sponsors outside for guidance. They may not tell you how to navigate the organization internally, but there are a lot of things that you can speak with people. Okay. So another important lesson is networking is very important within and outside the organization. Okay. It's a good skill to develop. It's equally important, and this holds good for men and women, need to be politically savvy. Okay. You will not get this in any textbook, neither any PPT presentation. Again, this is all coming out of experience. Okay. And being politically savvy is not a bad thing. Okay. The minute the word political comes, we think, there is quote unquote, there's something fishy about it. There's nothing fishy about it. Okay. Being politically savvy is understanding how to navigate the maze in the organization. Okay. And it doesn't come from spending years in the organization. You just have to be smart about understanding the dynamics, the said and the unsaid, right? And happens very well besides the job if you also understand the business of the organization. So besides what you just do, like I said, expand your arms and see what else is there. So put your hand up for any assignments, any projects, whatever. Your knowledge base will only expand, right? Very, very important. And we are speaking about gender parity. Sandhya, you let me know when we're 5 minutes to. Okay. So there's this Harvard business, and I don't want to, I read, but this, you don't have to read this, okay? Diversity doesn't stick without inclusion, okay? So what I like about this organization and this room here is that we have men here. Proportion is not important, okay? We have men here. So oftentimes in organizations, diversity and inclusion gets lumped together, okay? So there is this very famous diversity advocate called Verna Myers, and this is actually in HBR Feb 2017. So this very, last year's, who says diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is about being asked to dance. I love, I think it's beautiful. Invited to the party, everybody comes to the party. Okay. Do I invite you and say, can we dance together? Okay. So it's a no holds bar as far as that is concerned. So inclusion is more about having those dialogues with colleagues, male or female. And like I'm saying, coming halfway, reaching out to people. Okay. If for some reason women continue to sit on a high horse and feel entitled to a lot of things that organizations should do to them, we are actually doing disservice to us. Okay. So let's not actually ask for concessions or expect concessions because of the gender. It only makes us weak and vulnerable. Okay. And I don't think I've given you enough and more examples to say that one is not weak, one can speak for oneself, one can decide what is, right or wrong, all of that. Okay. And it didn't come easy. Even education in my life has not come easy. One had to really struggle and fight to get educated because of the place that I come from. Okay. The point is, some of these things absolutely are critical to your own existence. Okay. One more thing is ask. When I say ask, if you think you deserve something, or if you think you're deprived of something, speak up, ask. What is the maximum that can happen? You'll hear a no. So what? So what? You don't lose anything. Very important to continue to assert ourselves wherever we are, right? So it's good that we're all invited to the party. It's up to us whether we want to ask each other to dance together, or we would just want to stay, with the numbers or whatever. So in my mind, very clearly, the world is far from perfect. Okay. And we're not here to make a perfect world, right? But wherever we are, in whatever spheres that we do, whatever work that we do, whatever is our span of influence, let's make sure, that we stay strong. We help each other. Men and women together make a very healthy ecosystem. Okay, we can win a lot of awards for having the right numbers and so on and so forth, unless we are inclusive in our minds. Okay, and the spirit is imbibed in the organization. Diversity just remains a metric. My submission and my request to everyone listening and present here, let's move beyond the metric, and let's, on this Women's Day, as we are here gathered together to celebrate, let's actually ensure that we imbibe the spirit and take this beyond the numbers. I'm a huge fan of your CEO. I read up quite a bit, and also your CDO, the Chief Diversity Officer. I think absolutely the right reasons to talk about gender diversity. Okay. And everybody appreciates and understands the kind of challenges that we have in Asia and India. Okay. The fact that we understand India better than anybody else, let's make sure we help the organization to make a difference. Okay. So ultimately, it's in our hands. Okay. So I'm just going to take 2 more minutes, if you permit. So I have to keep looking at Sandhya.
I just want to open up to questions also.
Yes. So this is a little mime, okay, and I'm restricted, as you see. So have you heard of the Zen master? You heard of the Zen master? Yeah. Okay. So there was a kid who went to the Zen master and said, he had a parrot in his hand. Okay, so imagine this is a parrot in my hand, and he went to the master, said, Master, I have a parrot in my hand. The Zen master, of course, knows everything, right? So he wanted to test the master. Could you tell me if the parrot is dead or alive? So the child is smart and thinks to oneself that if he says that it's alive, I will actually squeeze the neck. Okay, and if he says it's dead, I will actually free the bird. Okay, so goes, and the Zen master, just like the ones I said, I told you, the ones who said, "Oh, we had come to look at the quality of students." I told you that expression. So he looks at the child and says, well, whether the bird is dead or alive is entirely in your hands. Okay, so similarly, whatever be the situation, wherever you are, okay, what you make out of it and where we go from here, whether it remains a metric or we take it beyond, is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much. Let's open up to questions.
Thank you so much.
Sanjay should moderate
Yeah,
the
for
Q&A.
this truly inspirational session. I think I got a lot out of it because a lot of it that you said resonated quite a bit with me. I'm known to speak my mind, yeah, but therefore I also understand that one has to be a lot more, aware of what you ask when you ask, and gratitude I think is very important. Having said that, I have one question. I'll start with that, and then I'll sort of, ask the rest of the people here to ask their questions. You said. Something that's always sort of niggled my head quite a bit is a lot of times women tend to become like men when they reach a certain position, and then when you get into a boardroom, I think aggression sometimes becomes a part of your character or your nature, even though you're not truly that way. How does one sort of not do that? How do you not become a man in a boardroom and how do you still retain your femininity and all the things that took you there, and how do you retain that and deal with that when you are in the boardroom?
Okay, I think that's a wonderful question, and I remember somebody had made a reference to this question as well. So I'm also on the board of a leading organization, and as an independent director. Okay, so there is a very thin line between assertion and aggression. Okay, and very, very important that one always keeps a tab on when you're likely to cross the line. Okay, the strength that women have is the fact that you are feminine. There are feminine traits which the other gender does not have, right? You become like them, then everybody talks the same language. You actually dissolve the value that one actually brings into the room. So the temptation, because of our conditioning, is that in order to succeed, the only way we know is to become like the successful. Okay, one has to actually get over this temptation and constantly watch oneself in terms of your behavior, your mannerisms, etc. Anybody who says something thumping the table and saying it loud doesn't mean that the person is right. Okay, male or female. Okay, the point is try to win over through substance. What I've seen in boardrooms is, and again, without any offense meant, women try to win through style and not through substance. So I'll explain what style and substance means. So style is something which is more physical, which is more external, okay, fades with age, right? Everybody grows old. Okay, you may try to hide your, grays or whatever. If you try to influence through style, okay, it holds very good, less ground or less water. Substance is what is always looked upon, appreciated, and adds value, especially in board situations, because you're responsible for looking at the strategic direction of an organization. That's a huge responsibility. We also understand the liabilities that go along with it. Okay, so the focus has to be, in my mind, with respect to women, has to more to be with substance, influencing by substance. And when there is substance, even if you say it in a meek voice, what is a fact is a fact, and nobody can change that, right? So I think this tone, tenor, all of this, I have seen people exhibit differently in boardrooms when there is lack of substance. Okay, and hence you use overtones of aggression to make a point and so on and so forth. All I'm saying, at all points in time, it's not about exercising or emphasizing your individuality. Everybody understands you're different. That's why you're there. Okay, but how different are you in terms of your knowledge? And substance is about knowledge. It's about content. Okay, so what's the substance that you have? That's the bedrock. Okay, so in my mind, that thin line does not get crossed Okay, I often keep checking myself. Okay, and it's best to keep quiet if you don't know, or if you're asked, and say, do you have a point of view on this? If you don't have, it's okay to say, I don't know, I'm not sure. Okay, it's okay to say, I don't know. You don't have to have a point of view about everything. So, to my mind, actually, having been on the board for 3 years, I mean, it absolutely has gained a lot of respect. One has gained a lot of respect and said, okay, if you have to make a point which makes sense. Okay, otherwise, not to use style and flaunt it unnecessarily.
Next question.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Do you
yes.
think assertion, that you call assertion, there's a thin line of difference between assertion and aggression. But sometimes assertion from women are perceived as aggression.
So perception, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So 100%, okay. That's why I said the manner and the overtones are very important. Okay, how are you asking what you're asking? It's so you've heard of this thing. It's not about what you say, how you say what you say is most important. Okay, and that's the difference between assertion and aggression.
I think the point which I think both are trying to make is irrespective of whether you're, I mean, you clearly don't have any intentions to be aggressive, you're just trying to be assertive. But nevertheless, when a woman makes a point, either a man tries to explain, or there's mansplaining, or there is, some bit of trying to finish sentences, or some bit saying, okay, just stop. I know what you're trying to say. Let me finish it for you. Or that kind of a thing. So I think, how do you deal with those kind of situations? Isn't it that men need to be more, I mean, while I appreciate that substance over form any day, I clearly get that. But isn't it equally important that men need to be sort of
So again, are we going to teach boardroom etiquettes to men? Are we going to run a class in terms of, okay, because let's accept it, okay? There is this syndrome that I know it all. You are the new entrant here, okay? So you are the one to learn, okay? And it's okay to be a learner. You're always a learner, right? All I'm saying here is when there is a know it all, to say, I know equally as much, okay? There's no point. When two people raise their voice and are trying to make a point, what happens? Okay? It's a cockfight. Okay? We're not in a fish market. You're in a boardroom, right? So I know there are tendencies like that. And I gave you this example, okay? It was in a boardroom, but it was not a board meeting, right? I gave you this example of executive committee meeting, okay, where I was told what I was told. Okay, you can take offense, you can, I could have got aggressive and said, how could anybody speak to me like that? I'm the HR head of the organization. Frankly, would it have made a difference? It would have actually spoiled. So that was an example of assertion. Okay, you also have to know where to let go. Okay, you make a point forcibly and say what you have to, but in a nice manner. And if you say it with a smile, it actually works wonders. Try it. Okay, and we can talk about this offline. I can demonstrate. Free demo.
Then Nasreen had a question, and then
Yes.
So, hi Aparna, I'm really glad to you speaking your heart out. So many years ago, when you were born, your mother faced a lot of wisdom from the grandmothers. Even today, I have two beautiful daughters. I get the same wisdom from grandmothers, mind you, not from grandfathers. Okay, so how do we change it? Many years passed by, but things are still the same.
So how do we change it? So when you become a grandmother, you know what not to do. You know what not to do. Okay, and similarly, when your daughters become grandmoms, okay, they know what not to do. Okay, so okay, that
reminds me of 417 years.
Yeah. So I said that in jest, but I think, okay, so let's accept the fact that nobody is evil. They don't mean to harm you. They're family, okay? They mean good. That is what they have grown up with. Was there so much awareness? Was there so much understanding? Did they know what diversity was? Did they understand gender? Okay, it was a different day and age. Okay, I think, if you develop a relationship, and that's why I said I am very grateful to my grandmother, and she is blessing wherever she is. Okay, because I think I've created value. She thought I was worth nothing, but I think, she would be very happy with whatever value, whatever it may still be in her eyes. In my eyes, it's all right. Okay, so it's about building a relationship with this generation in this changing world. Okay, and helping them appreciate times are changing. Not to say the next thing saying you need to change. No, we don't say that to them. Okay, but you demonstrate by actions. I think actions speak louder than words. Okay, and when you build that relationship, then have a heart to heart chat, like DDS, direct dil se. Okay, and say that, look, we have to work together on ensuring that they have the best, they get the best, and tell them in so it was not my grandmom alone. There were others in the family, my aunts, my buas, etc. Okay, so over a period, as I was growing up, I developed a relationship to go and tell her that, look, this is how you made me feel. Okay, this is what you did to me. Okay, not with an intent that she will apologize to me. That was not important. Okay, but did she understand that she was harming me and hurting me without the intention of actually harming me? Okay, how much damage that has done. Okay, so when you build that relationship, it becomes easy. I've done that. Okay, and I felt so much better after that, saying, I have this approach that if it belongs to you, it needs to go to you. It doesn't rest with me. Okay, because then I'm very, unsettled until it gets to you. So I've told her. Okay, and I know that it was not intentional. So I think you try this, of course, before you become a grandmom. You try this approach, I think it should work. Okay, this is my experience. Yes. So,
Fortunately, we are in a place where inclusion is actually taken up very seriously, and our leaders are actually living that in their daily lives. But across client organizations, across different corporate organizations also, what we've seen is a lot of times the debate that we just had about substance versus time, substance versus form. Why does that come up at all? Do you think that our men are somewhat insecure about women with substance? And if that is so, what do you suggest we should do to help this men get rid of it?
I love the question, and I love the courage. And I love the fact that there is, it's not a conclusion, but there's a thought that insecure. Okay, so okay, so why is it so? It's not about men feeling insecure. Women also feel insecure. Okay, we may not admit it. Okay, and since we are having an open DDS, direct dil se, okay, so I'm saying it's only human to feel insecure. Okay, now frankly, I have not checked any male mind or heart to figure out whether they really feel insecure in those kind of situations or not. But jokes apart, how can we overcome it? How is it? It's about substance, but it's also, and I said about feminine things. Okay, the more you know, the more humble you need to be. Okay, humility never goes out of style. Okay, the more humble you are, the easier it is to ensure that you are able to break any of these walls of insecurity or whatever and build a relationship with people, man or woman. Women are insecure amongst each other. Okay, when somebody is growing faster, let's talk about it openly. Why men and women are insecure? Women are insecure about each other. Men are insecure about each other. They're all human, so it's bound to happen. But it's about substance, and when there is substance all along, there is humility, which is very important. Okay, and humility is not about maturity, it's not about age, it's not about any of that. Okay, humility just needs to actually, the more knowledgeable you are, the more substance there is more humility. So you make that point, and as it is, the other person drops the defenses. Okay, so try this in terms of in your client organizations or whatever. Okay, and smile. Okay, be amiable, but make the point. Okay, again, competence, you cannot have gender as an alibi, whether it is male or female, for incompetence, male or female. Okay, so the minute there is humility, and with humility also comes authenticity.
I have to do this.
Yeah.
Sorry. One last
Authenticity.
question. I hate doing
Authenticity, and we can talk about it more. Okay, but just remember these two things. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
While I completely agree with you on the stance that people need to be calm, be it be a man or a woman, in terms of dealing with the situations. Whereas something that I've always grappled with and I still grapple with is the whole concept of femininity that's been enforced on all the women. So I'm expected to be calmer in a situation where a man could lose the temper. See, I completely agree that everyone needs to be calm. What I really don't understand is why am I expected to be calmer and more humble and polite as compared to a man?
Stereotypes associated with
I'll give
women.
you an example. There was an instance when I went and I met this woman. She's amazing. She blew my mind. Like I was so impressed. She was someone I wanted to be.
I can trust
And
you.
she was someone, yeah. And she seemed to me as a very strong, independent woman. When I came out of the room, I was, mind blown, and I expected everyone else to be the same, but they had a very different opinion. They thought she was loud, and she was aggressive, and she was dominant, which I didn't understand. And it keeps happening, and I feel that even in instances when I'm speaking my mind out, I feel like people are just, saying, "Oh, wait, take a step back, calm down. You shouldn't be so opinionated." Something that I've always had a problem with, and I feel like, how would you suggest, like, what should be done on this?
Okay, so again, you make a very valid point about being expected to be calm, etc. So there are certain research shows there are certain feminine traits that women are supposed to exhibit, and then certain masculine traits that men are supposed to. Okay, now fortunately or unfortunately, these are traits that have been researched, and then we have also been exhibiting over a period of time. Okay, I'm not sure if we need to worry too much about what is expected, what is the norm. Okay, unless and until it's coming in the way of what needs to get delivered. The focus has to be what is the deliverable, what is the job, what is the. If we worry too much about how am I being perceived, okay, I'm not sure everybody's thinking about you. You are thinking too much about yourself. Okay, I'm not sure everybody is thinking. Okay, there is no broad brush approach to this is how it should be and this is how that should be. Okay, it varies from situations to situations. Okay, yes, there are expectations. Okay, do you mind speaking up and standing out when you think it is important and it is needed, and keeping quiet and actually aligning and abiding by this expectation when it's not? Okay, that is the wisdom and the judgment that actually you need to exercise. Nobody can tell you what is the right or the wrong thing as far as that. Yes, anybody who's loud, anybody who will be anybody who's very confident, okay, and knows her mind will be perceived like that. Okay, are you actually going to get flustered by how you get perceived? Unless and until it is coming in the way of your growth, okay, of your movement, of deliverables, of your interpersonal relationships with people, etc. Unless and until it's not coming in the way, and that's a check and balance that you need to actually exercise in terms of is there any backlash? Otherwise, fine. I mean, people perceive you know it's not about somebody who has short hair is more hep than somebody who has we have so many stereotypes like that. Okay, somebody who wears jeans is more fast forward than somebody who doesn't. Okay, I mean, the world is full of them. Are we going to fall prey to that? Okay. It's about your own identity and what you feel comfortable with. So yes, there are expectations. People try to fit you in a box. That is true in organizations as well. Again, I'm saying you are blessed. Okay. Let's appreciate what we have and where we are part of. And then if you notice something, I'm not sure if you call out something like this in this organization, anybody's going to hold your finger and say, why do you do that? Okay. People are tolerant enough to do, take it like that. Right. So, different strokes for different folks in different situations. That's the best that I can think of.
I'm sure we have many more questions, but I don't think we have enough time. So thank you so much for your fantastic speech. I'm going to move on to the next section, which is to hear from our own male allies. So we're going to hear from
the rest of it. The rest of the session.
Yeah, we're going to hear from Mukesh. And we're going to hear from Dinesh Kapoor, who happens to be here today from Bangalore. So, Mukesh, perhaps you can go first.
I should go first?
Yeah, why not?
Yes. It's just a 2-minute video. I just want you to go through it and then we'll start. And this is the first time I may not come in the frame, by the way.
Wake up in the morning, all systems on go. Cause I got goals and I won't take no for an answer. Got the grace of a dancer, the heart of a panther. I don't understand you. It puts in your vocab, I cannot quote that. I want this so bad, I cannot go back. I cannot back down, I will not give up. You versus me, huh? I say good luck. You don't want this problem, cause I don't do it unless I go full throttle. And I might throw it on Instagram, just to show you what the difference is. For instance, I'm up with the roosters, outrun the runners, outshoot the shooters. Look in the mirror, hey girl, let's do this. My only competition is myself. That's why I keep some cookies on the shelf. Never lazy cause it's bad for my health. Da-da-ding, bada boom, bada bing. Now let's go. 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 Da-da-ding, da-da-ding, da-ding. Game on, about to do my thing. Guess who stepped in the ring? The last one left in the ring. Can't lose cause I work too hard. Have game like, oh my god. Ball shit, my pull-up game is so sick. Don't think I lost it, I'm just getting started. It's time to sweat. Another rep, another set. Oh yeah, another lap, another mile. About to turn up the dial. I'm in the gym making me proud. Then I'm on the track holding it down. Know where my girls at? Let's go, I'm gonna show the world that anything they can do, we can do better. Just do it together. And feeling's not part of the plan. But if I fall, I'ma stand again. Play hard cause I ain't worried about getting a 10. I'm still just a beautiful man. Da-da-ding, bada boom, bada bing. Let's go. 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 Let's go.
athlete is not a guy or a girl thing. It's a skill thing. And that is not applicable to corporate. So when I started that, you need to have a level playing field. You need to be skillful to be in this particular world. That's the first one. And I'm very happy to start with two statements in the recently what is happening in India. One is Indian cricket team won the World Cup. And second one, our defense minister become Nirmala Sitaraman. That's a great thing for me, just to see where the women are going. I'm typically as a habit to bring some light moment during my talk. Let me try to bring it. I will take you a little back, not little back, very back in our mythology. So in our mythology, I will talk about the Hindu mythology. If you talk about our god and our goddesses, if you want to get educated, you need to go to goddess Saraswati. If you want money, you need to go to goddess Lakshmi. You want power, goddess Durga. Male has no portfolio. Whether it's Rama, Krishna, Shiva, they can only do blessings. And it is there in our DNA, it is there in our blood, right? I don't know why we need to teach it now again. Somehow in between, we forget this. And tell the second one.
Mukesh, would you like to comment on Shiva for a moment?
No. Okay. Let me also try to bring little some brownie point for the finance department because I represent finance department. We are not very good in the gender diversity. Typically, we are in 26, 27%. We have improved by 6, 7%. But what we have done in the last 8, 9 months, I joined in June 2017 this organization, and we have hired 9 people. And out of that 9, we have ensured that 6 people are women, which is 67%. So we are trying to improve. And why I believe women can be a great finance manager is because of recently, if you heard, India gone through demonetization, and you find a lot of money has come from the woman, correct? I don't find anything wrong in that because that is finance management, that is risk management, and that is the why I believe that women can be a great finance manager, risk managers, and at the same time a savings person. Typically, what happens? We need to keep some money for the rainy days, and if they can do a better job, why not? They can be part of the organization in the finance department. Now, I supposed to speak something about the male role. What I supposed to play? I supposed to ask one question from Aparna. I didn't get the time, but typically we find as a male a very thin line between giving an opportunity and being seen as a person who is favoring somebody. So that's a very thin line, and sometimes we don't want to cross into that line, and we want to avoid this. That kai pangam padne ka, it become some other issues. So I may need some guidance on that how to navigate that particular process. Yes. So as a male, what I'm supposed to do and what I try to do and what I expect all the male to do is open the door for more participation, and that can happen with a single or a simple. Say in a meeting, there are 4 women are sitting, 5 males are sitting. Just allow a woman to speak, and if they have a point of view, maybe you have to probe them once, twice, thrice that whether you have a point of view, and if that can help, that is the role a male can play. We can amplify their voice. If they are not good enough in talking loudly, as a male, I need to amplify that particular voice and allow them to speak their mind out. Listen to women, it's very, very important. And typically they are not very good in talking in a gathering. They may have one-on-one, they can speak to you about themselves. So it's very important that you listen to them, understand what their problem or what they wanted to do. Sometimes we don't allow them to speak what they really wanted to do. You got an opportunity, not everybody got that sort of opportunity in life. Third one, which is very, very important, is support them in their break times. The women typically go through break times. So during the breaks, whether it's a marriage break, whether it's a child break, during the break, you need to support them. After the break, you need to support them so that they can come back to the mainstream as soon as possible, because that's the motivation factor. Couple of more things about the career. Yes, a typical thing we do is we are becoming too hard on ourselves. and because you are competing with male, don't become too hard on yourself. Nothing will going to change in the whole world. So take time out, stop, go on vacation, enjoy yourself. And second one, which is again very important, and my personal philosophy is that if you are not happy yourself, you can't make anybody happy in life. Take something which can make you happy. It can be swimming, dancing, or anything, which can make you happy. And if you are happy in the morning, you can make the whole office happy at the end of the day. Take care of your health. Again, I advocate that a lot. You should spend at least half an hour every day on your body, physical, so that and go for swimming, go for something else. We are living in a very, very stressful world, and every day there is a tension. There is a saas ka tension, pati ka tension, office ka tension. Spend some time on yourself so that you can navigate that particular part.
What is the tension?
नहीं बॉस अच्छा okay. Be what you are. Nobody want to change you, and please don't change for anybody, because everybody has a success mantra. Everybody can be successful what they are today, and you need not have to do this one. But Aparna was talking about, no, not required. Whatever you are, it can be successful. That can be a success mantra. Don't change for anybody else, because if you are changing your personality. And that personality has taken you to this particular level. So that's it from my side. This is the first time I am addressing to young women. I may make mistakes, but very happy. I joined this organization, Aparna, 7 months back. I spent a whole lot of time in a traditional Indian organization, not Indian, MNC, but this is the team where I see a lot of enthusiastic, very, very energetic women power coming, and working with them, knowing them, understanding them, helping them in whatever the navigation we can do is what I'm trying to do. And if you need any other support as a male ally, as a male supporter, I may be the right person. And thank you very much. And I'm privileged, honored, standing in front of you, and happy Women's Day again to all of you.
Words from you.
Mukesh, I don't have a video. Happy Women's Day. And it's not about today, it's about every single day. Seriously. Shonali and I were discussing exactly that. I think it's unfair to call out one day as a Women's Day, right? We need to do it, practice it every single day. When Sandhya asked me to speak this morning, I'm generally, mostly people won't know me here, right? Because I'm reticent, I hide from things. But it's a privilege to be addressing you. It's a privilege to be called a male ally. So I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. I think I'm an unfair advantage talking on this because my best boss ever was a woman. I worked 25 years, so that's a long time. Some of my best colleagues, past and present, have been women. My best BFF is a woman. Right, so I think I have a huge advantage talking about this. And when I said all this, I'm a researcher, right? So I need to back it up with why do I say that, right? So I was just looking at a few characteristics or traits which back what I want to say, right? And it's like there's always exceptions, there are norms, right? There are some things which men do, some things women do, which are right or wrong. There are a few things that I called out as characteristics which probably are the reasons of why I'm saying that. Generally, when you interact with the women, they have a balanced view on things. That's more often than not, you'll find that. When you go to them for advice or ask any question, the first thing they'll do is put themselves in your shoes, right? The very high level of empathy. So when you're getting a piece of advice, you know that's the piece of advice for you and not from their lens. Right? Not their personal lens. They're very good listeners, not judgmental, right? Otherwise, you need to be worried about when you're saying something to somebody. Are they forming an opinion about me? So that's something I really have noticed in most cases when you interact with women. Patience, right? I think probably life teaches them, whether it's situations, whether it's people. The level of patience that they exhibit in situations is huge. And fairness in getting, even if they want to get to a place, they'll always reach it through fair means, right? I'll go as far as saying that you wouldn't expect men to do that, right? Any means is fair, but I would clearly call that out. So, and if you roll all of these into a person, what do you get, right? It's an amazing person, amazing boss, amazing friend. So that's all I had to call out. And I wanted to end with a piece of advice which I will borrow from Aparna. Don't make men out of women, right? Please don't do that. Even among men, we are very different. I'm different from Mukesh. I'm different from Mahipal, right? We don't want to change. It's the same thing. We bring very different things to the table to a team, right? So don't ever try to, that's an unsolicited advice, right? But we are different. All of us are different. So be what you are and take your place where it rightfully belongs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll just get Geet Lulla, who's here from Grace Note, is a Grace Note MD for South Asia, Middle East, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to get him to do a vote of thanks for.
But can I take a few minutes?
Yeah, sure.
This opportunity is fabulous.
Sure.
So, geography lesson, picking a page from Aparna's book. Who's heard of Switzerland? Right? Anyone? No hand. No. Right. So Switzerland granted, and I don't like that word, but granted voting rights to women in 1971. Right? In my lifetime, I was a baby back then in 1971. It's amazing for me, surprising, shocking that a country like Switzerland actually said, okay, women, now you can vote. That's nuts. Fast forward, 1994, I started my second job. As I'd already been working for about 3 years. And what are women doing in that company? MNC, secretaries, receptionist, assistant, right? 1994. Not good. Fast forward another 24 years. Today, I'm proud to be working in a company like Grace Note, a part of Nielsen, where half the employee base are women. Half. Across the lattice, Aparna, I'm going to be using that term. Thank you. Across the lattice, right? Entry level, senior management. It's fabulous. So it's really, really good to be in this place today. Last night, I had a similar experience like Aparna. It wasn't my wife, it was my daughter asking me, Papa, so tomorrow's Women's Day. What are you going to do for Mama tomorrow? I was like, so how is it different from any other day? Right? And that's true. I think we have to, apply that. It's not about this special day. Do we need a Women's Day? Perhaps yes. I'm actually ambivalent on that, like Sandhya. But I think we have to treat every day as a special day. So in an ideal world, we shouldn't need a Women's Day. In an ideal world, gender should be relevant. Right? That's the way I like to think. But it's not an ideal world. We all know that. Nobody promised us it's going to be an ideal world, right, when we were born. So, what do we do in a less than ideal world? So, I have some unsolicited advice, as Dinesh had. I think for women, right, focus on the outcomes, the deliverables. Aparna mentioned that. Be professional. It's not about gender. Don't let it become about gender. Don't make it about gender. Last but not the least, be prudent. There will be situations, there will be awkward situations. Be prudent. Right? For men, start off with being prudent. For women, I'll give you a small example here. A few months ago, I landed back from a flight in Bombay. I had a colleague with me. She ordered an Uber. I ordered an Uber. Her phone died. She couldn't locate her Uber driver. It's 4 a.m. in the morning, Bombay airport. It's a fairly busy place, right? Fairly safe. But I stood there with her for 40 minutes, waiting to ensure that she gets into the Uber that she had ordered, because we couldn't even trace the guy. I think that's the prudentness of it. That's a word that I'm talking about. I think secondly, for men, be sensitive, right? Be sensitive. Well, gender should be relevant in an ideal world, but we have gender for good reasons. So be sensitive to that. And that's the advice I would give men. Last but not the least, for men, respect. 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 That's absolutely, absolutely crucial. Respect at work, we've heard about that. We've heard about respect at home. We need to have respect in the local trains, right? On the road, there are so many instances where you hear about disrespect, and that just gets my blood boiling. Right? So respect. You have to have respect for your male colleagues too, men. It's not only about women, but respect for women, right? Absolutely, absolutely crucial. This is supposed to be a vote of thanks. So, but it's not, in that sense, it's not a traditional vote of thanks. Definitely, thank you to Aparna for an inspiring speech. I picked up a few things that I'll be using. Royalty charges payable in coffee. But yeah, thank you for being here. I would also like to thank the organization, right? Again, grateful to be in a place like Nielsen. When I heard about the ERGs and I heard about WIN, I was like, I want to be part of WIN. So very quickly, I was volunteered to being the executive sponsor for WIN for Grace Note, right? In this part of the world. So be thankful for that we recognize this, we talk about it, we have forums like this. We should have even larger and wider audiences for these kind of forums, but we have to be thankful for that. So that's another place of thanks. Thankful to our families, right? 25 years back, when I started my career, 26 years back, like, a woman shouldn't be working. And what do you think you're working? Get married, have babies, right? Awkward things, but let's say that was the expectation. So if you've been part of a family that supported you getting out there, and I have a sister who's 3 years younger, and my parents were like, yeah, get out and work. Right? There was no discrimination, there was no differentiation between us two. So thank you for that too, if you've had that luxury, if you've had that privilege. I'm going to end this with a small story that happened as recently as 2 weeks ago. My head of sales in Grace Note, he's a man. He calls me up in the morning on Thursday. He's saying, boss, I have to take off today. My daughter, younger daughter, she's 2 years old. She's got high fever and 103 or something like that. And I need to take off. I need to be home. My wife's busy. She's got something that she can't get out of. So I'm going to be home. And I'm like, fabulous. I didn't say that to him. Like, okay, yeah, take care of the baby. But in my head, I'm thinking that's fabulous. I mean, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this was like, yeah, माँ है ना उसको बोल बच्चे को देखने को. He had the luxury in an organization. I'm proud of that culture that we either built or we sustained, where he feels that he can call me and say, my baby's unwell, I need to be home for 2 days. And that's a step towards that equality. We've got 217 years to go, but we are moving forward, right? The signs are changing. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Sandhya, thanks for the invitation. It's good to be here.
Give the odd woman and just try and take a picture. Let's try to take a picture. Can I have you do the picture? It's a little bit a little token from us.
Oh, is that also on camera?
We've been asked to stand in the zone.
No, you have to be in the center. You are seen. No, it's all.
That's me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can we all just gather up and just take a picture, which we will probably like put in some. Let's just do that.
Yeah, we will discriminate.